What's your story?
Jurassic World Dominion is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. A disrespectful embarrassment that pushed the boundaries on stupid characters, wasted cameos, and terrible writing, forcing them to take the story in a different direction, ignoring the continuity of the World trilogy, dropping the Deer Slapper, discount Hammond and that dumbass clone, and resting the fate of the franchise on ScarJo's tits, being one of the many IPs to fall victim to sequelitis and get milked into the ground, spamming as many poor imitations as possible while completely ignoring the point of the first. Taking a story that had so much to say and such a better understanding of tension and character development, and turning it into a brain-dead excuse to see people get eaten by dinosaurs. The theme of man versus nature, exploring our desire for control and the moral implications of cloning.
Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen. You wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun.
Dinosaurs had their shot, and nature selected them for extinction.
All of that gets flushed down the drain, as they seem to only remember the scenes where people get bitten. Stripping the story of all of its substance and many of the creative elements that made the original so iconic, and consistently rushing past basic setup in order to get to their crappy payoffs. And I want to break down a scene that shows just how far this IP has fallen, and a reminder of a time when writers actually had respect for your brain when constructing their stories.
Alan.
Throughout all the Jurassic World movies, we have seen the inciting incidents slowly make less and less sense. From the stupid prick trying to get a tooth for his collection, to the idiot with the fat head walking into the cage. Any excuse to get to the dinosaur scenes as fast as possible. But the amount of restraint that the first film had is something that deserves to be praised. Dedicating an entire character to explain the downfall of the park, and having the story progress in a logical way.
Dodson!
You shouldn't use my name.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here! See, nobody cares. Nice hat. You're trying to look like a secret agent?
We are introduced to Dennis Nedry, an underpaid, bitter employee of John Hammond, the man responsible for creating Jurassic Park, and the same person who claimed they spared no expense, but still managed to neglect his staff, leading to Nedry's betrayal.
$750. On delivery, 50,000 more for each viable embryo. That's 1.5 million if you get all 15 species off the island.
Oh, I'll get them all.
Remember, viable embryos. They're no use to us if they don't survive.
A quick set of lines to clarify exactly who he's working with and the price he's being paid, in addition to confirming the target of their mission, and providing him with the gear that he needs to safely transport the dinosaur embryos.
The bottom screw's open.
Oh, you guys.
It's cool to compartmentalize inside.
You guys, oh, that's great.
Customs can even check it if they want. There's enough coolant inside for 36 hours.
No menthol?
The embryos have to be back here in San Jose by then.
And that's up to your guy on the boat. 7 o'clock tomorrow night on the East Dock. Make sure he gets it right.
And in a natural conversation, we get all the information we need to understand their strategy and the timeline, setting up a critical side plot, and directly connecting it to Hammond's introduction scene.
How are you planning to beat security?
Oh, I've got an 18-minute window. 18 minutes and your company catches up on 10 years of research.
After bringing the guests to the island for the tour, and going through all the steps they are taking to ensure the safety of the park, we get the reveal of how important of an employee he actually is almost 30 minutes later, giving the audience a chance to get lulled into a false sense of security, before being reminded of this important element.
I'm totally unappreciated in my time. You can run this whole park from this room with minimal staff for up to 3 days. You think that kind of automation is easy? Or cheap?
But his strategy is ruined by the rainstorm, and the 18-minute window that he planned for is no longer possible. So he shuts down the gates that he needs to make his great escape, but leaves the rest of the park at risk. Panicked and short on time, Dennis takes the risk of traveling through dinosaur territory and ends up crashing his vehicle, setting up one of the most memorable creatures in the film, and a fantastic payoff after having them not show up on the tour. Bloody karma for a man whose greed caused the entire disaster and led to the death of the lawyer and 2 of his colleagues. A selfish bastard, but still a more memorable character than anyone in the entire World trilogy. Played by the charismatic Wayne Knight, and somehow managing to give a fantastic tribute to the Goonies in just a few scenes. We got a subtle reminder of a 7 p.m. deadline from the PA system mentioning the departure of the boat, and the meticulous, malicious nature of his plan made it totally believable that a park this fortified could still fall apart, instead of just making it bad luck or utter stupidity. One of the many steps this film took to be realistic and provide a memorable experience, building tension over time and creating some of the most terrifying scenes ever filmed.
Don't get cheap on me, Dodson. That was Hammond's mistake.
Now, let's compare that to Jurassic World Abortion. The film opens up with a helicopter arriving on Isle St. Hubert, because apparently there's just dozens of islands with dinosaurs to study, and Isla Nubla and Sorna were nothing special. And all of the dinosaurs that escaped the island in the previous films are being ignored in order for this one to exist. Dominion was so unbelievably crap that they reshuffled the deck to the point that I don't even know what the fuck is going on. But I do know it's gonna be stupid and horrendously written, and somebody's definitely gonna get eaten, so let's do this, I guess.
Mutations in genome 7. Thank you.
We get to see the inside of a special lab, with scientists in protective suits, a multi-million-dollar facility with clear guidelines and security protocols, and what appears to be a special section of InGen experimenting on dinosaur hybrids as they show the monsters behind the glass. But rather than having the talent or patience to set up a character like Dennis and develop a believable side plot, they double down on the brain damage and show us you can always find a better way to shit all over a classic and skip every possible step in order to rush to the action scene.
Alright, let's get this over with.
So one of the scientists waddles into the room with his trusty briefcase and delicious Snickers bar. A bit sloppy and unprofessional for this environment, but no big deal. I'm sure he's had a long shift and it's just a little snack. What's the worst that can happen?
What the hell are you? No!
We went from a premeditated heist, a revenge plot based on the history of two interesting characters, all the way to some random asshole's chocolate wrapper taking out an entire facility.
Seal the doors! Seal the doors!
The scientists show absolutely no discipline at all, running, falling, and panicking like there's no safety measures in place whatsoever. And the one protocol that they do show is completely ignored, as the lady freezes and shits herself instead of helping in any way.
1. Come on! 3, 2, come on!
In the opening scene for the original, we saw a dozen men standing watch as they shipped the raptor. We had Muldoon, the wildlife expert, overseeing the project. They had a logical strategy to transfer the raptor, and it was a simple moment of underestimating its strength that led to the attack. A freak accident that's totally believable based on all the variables in this scene. And after he gets grabbed, they all try their best to help him. But now in a modern facility with people who've been working with these creatures long enough to make hybrids, they're completely useless. She doesn't run away. She doesn't attempt to get any help. She doesn't suggest a plan or try to distract it. She fucking stands there, gawking like a fool as the ugliest dinosaur I've ever seen in my life eats her coworker. The type of scene that's so distractingly stupid that it makes it impossible to take seriously. A gigantic red flag, and a sign to the audience to turn their brains off. Followed by one of the most boring generic films I've seen in years. Desperately sticking to the formula and refusing to add an ounce of originality or creativity. Empty, one-dimensional characters and so little confidence in their ability to create an interesting story with dinosaurs that they rely on mutant freaks to wow the audience instead of having any respect for tension and using these creatures in a clever way. This entire scene only exists to set up a creature that appears randomly at the end of the film for 5 minutes, looks like dog shit and has almost no effect on the plot. Compared to a character like Dennis, where without his actions we would have gotten an entirely different story, and is the perfect example to highlight their lack of effort. And like I've said on many occasions, you can't do worse than Dominion. It's not possible to make a more awful Jurassic Park sequel than that crime against humanity. But this film reminded me of the power of boredom and what can happen when you have an amazing concept but absolutely no ideas. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies. The first film I ever saw in theaters, and a story that blew the minds of millions of people around the world, bringing these incredible creatures to the big screen in such a believable way. And one of the first things that comes to mind when I think of movie magic. And to think that after 3 decades and 6 sequels, they haven't even come close to touching the quality of the original. But the worst part is the incredible amount of people that see no difference between them. The standards begin and end with dinosaur action, and the expectations have never been lower. And as long as these movies continue to bring in the hundreds of millions of dollars that they do, there's no need for them to try. The formula will never change, and the franchise will continue to embarrass itself. More flaming locusts and laser-guided raptors, ugly mutants and invisible monsters, cheap nostalgia, crappy characters, and plot armor that's thicker than a Snickers. For fuck's sake, stop giving them money.